can't leave the comments because the comments are like sideways now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you see, that's the only thing that sucks about it. Let's see. So, like that. Okay, we're kind of holding the frame a little bit.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, we're good. We are good. All right. So, welcome to episode 16 of the Qierre and Wesley Show. I'm your host, realtor, and author of The Blueprint to Successfully Selling Your Home, Qierre McGlory. Along with me, my business partner, my co-host, my lender, Mr. Moneyman himself, and Axia Home Loan Sales Manager of Orange County, Mr. Wesley Oliver. How are you doing today, sir?
Excellent. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So, I heard you went to a concert yesterday, right?
It was a ballet of sorts.
A ballet of sorts. Okay,
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
interesting. I didn't know you were into the ballet.
Yeah, some of them.
Okay, cool, man, cool. Nice.
Yeah, the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've been watching them for a long time.
Oh, great. So how was it yesterday?
It was entertaining and did not disappoint as usual.
Oh, well, that's great. Sounds like you had a great time.
Did.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I, we actually went to Disney's Frozen yesterday.
Okay.
You know, so it was pretty awesome. You know, our daughter couldn't take her eyes off the ice. You know, she was just in there, you know, and clapping after everyone's performance like a good spectator should, right?
All right.
You know, and then my wife, obviously, she knows all the songs because we watch Frozen at least once a day. So she was singing the whole night to every song. So, you know, everyone, we just had a great time. So it was nice. And our daughter had like her little Elsa dress on and everything like that. So, yeah, it was great. It was a great night. So we all had a great time. So, yeah, it was cool. So I saw that you recently closed one of your clients this week. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, so that client, did they have to put 5% down on the house to buy?
They did have to put 5% down.
Okay.
Because it was a conventional and they were buying a condo.
Oh, okay.
So they did have to put 5% down.
Okay.
That entire 5% was not all their own money, but they did have to put 5% down.
Wait a second. So they bought a house, they put 5% down, but you're saying that 5% wasn't all of their money?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So out of that 5%, you know, they probably it was probably like 3.5% is probably their money, right?
No, actually 3.5% was the state of California's money.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're saying that they only had to put down maybe 1.5%?
1.5%.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. So okay. So interesting. So the property that they bought, how much was the property that they bought?
The purchase price was $440.
$440, and they only put 1.5% down.
Yes.
Now that's crazy because last video we talked about is when we were talking about something called the earnest money deposit. You usually put down between 1% and 3%
right.
for the earnest money deposit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that this person bought a property for $440,000.
Mm-hmm. They
only put 1% down, which is like $4,400, but I think they put down $5,000, right?
Yeah, it was 1.5%, and then they also had an additional 4% that the state covered for their closing costs.
Wait a second. So let me get this right here. The state covered 3.5%,
mm-hmm.
and the state covered another 4%
for their closing costs. Yeah.
So altogether, that's 7.5%.
Yes, it is.
So they got 7.5% of free money, so to speak. Not money that they had to actually take out of their 401k
right.
or the retirement, or money that they had to take out of their savings.
Right. They are, they are financed,
mm-hmm.
but they don't have to make any payments on those additional loans until they pay off the primary mortgage, which is a 30-year fixed mortgage.
So let me get this right. So for the next 30 years, all they have to do is make their mortgage payment.
Right.
They don't have to pay the assistance part of that 7.5%.
No. And then one of them has a 0% interest rate. So whatever they borrowed, it'll be the same amount 30 years from now. The other one is a simple interest rate of 2.5%, which means basically if you finance $10,000,
mm-hmm.
you only have $250 being added to the balance annually.
Wow. So, okay, so let's go back one step. So technically, these people put down maybe $5,000 of their own money.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much they paid the earnest money deposit.
Pretty much.
And everything else, that just came from the government.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that sounds like a really great program. So what is this program called?
This is a program through Cal HFA. That's the organization. It's been around for 40 years in the state of California.
Okay.
And the program is called, there's two programs. One of them is the Cal Plus.
Okay.
With ZIP. ZIP stands for Zero Interest Program.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
And the other program with the down payment is called the My Home.
My Home. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as I think about all the people that I'm able to help that otherwise wouldn't be able to purchase a home because it's so hard to save money.
Yes, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, especially in that couple just happen to be millennials. So especially, I work with quite a few millennials, and one of the things that they have challenges with is they're paying student loans usually, and they have to pay rent.
Right.
So, and they're early in their career, so they're not making the big money, and so it's hard to save money.
Correct.
When you've got to pay rent, you're paying on your student loans. So, if not for programs like this, someone like the couple I was able to help last week might have to wait around for, the next 5, 6, 7 years before they can do that.
Right. So these programs that you're talking about, I guess they would be considered down payment assistance programs?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but I get questions all the time like, this down payment assistance program, is it real? No. I don't know. Like, why would the government give me money? Like, do you have to have, like, a perfect credit score? Do you have to have an exceptional work history? Like, you have to work for the same company at least 10 years in a row? Do you have to have, like, at least an 800-plus credit score? You know what I mean? Like, I always get these questions, and that's why I really wanted to do this topic again because, we did this before, but I still get asked these questions about these down payment assistance programs. Like, Qierre, is it real? You know what I mean? Like, were you giving us just some lip service? Like, was it really real about this down payment assistance program? Right. Is this only for certain people, not for the real people, not for the general public?
Right.
Right.
All I can say is if it's not real, I have about 50 families that are living in a house they shouldn't be in right now. So
oh, geez.
I just want to warn them,
you guys. Sold you guys a fake product. I don't know. They're coming back to collect it.
But no, these programs are very real. As far as, why would the state of California want to help someone buy a home? Because it's good for the local economy, for starters.
Right.
In general, they say that with just one home sales transaction, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about $40,000 in revenues being generated for local businesses.
Wow, I mean, that's great.
And that doesn't even scratch the surface on the people who are involved in the transaction. I mean, think about how many people get fed off of one mortgage transaction.
Yeah, I would say an average of probably 26 people.
Yeah, because I mean, just the main people involved. I mean, the main players.
Right.
You have your loan officer, right, and then of course, whatever bank or mortgage company they work for. You have your listing agent and their broker. You have the buyer's agent and their broker. You have the escrow representative and their company. You have the title rep and their company. You have the home inspector, the appraiser. Right. Any work that needs to be done, you have, the contractor that's going to do it.
Exactly.
Or, the handyman, things like that. The pest inspection, whoever does that, whoever does the repairs for the pest inspection. I mean, so you have a lot of people. And in addition to that, you're moving someone into a new neighborhood that is now more than likely going to be a patron of the local businesses in that area. And they're also going to be invested in that community, which is also good. You and I were at a meeting earlier today, and someone had made an announcement about a meeting they're having for the city of Anaheim Hills.
Yes.
Where you can actually go and see how they're spending the money and and voice an opinion about how they spend the money. Well, if you're just renting in Anaheim Hills and you've rented in Orange and Fullerton and Placentia, and your lease is going to be up next year,
right,
or at the end of this year, let's say, do you think that who's more likely to go and be a participant in that meeting? Someone who is a homeowner that's part of the community, their kids go to the schools,
right?
You know what I mean? They're working in the community, they're driving on those roads, who's more likely to go and be a part of that meeting? That person or the person who's just living there now, and when their lease is up and the rent's going up, they're going to move wherever they can find, a rental at the price they want.
Correct.
So there's just many benefits of many benefits of home ownership, that as far as how they benefit the local community. And then also keep in mind, these are state organizations, but they are not getting funding from the state. They're self-funded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not like Jerry Brown has to, cut a check and send it to these organizations.
Right.
They generate their own. So like if California, and this happened, I think, over a decade ago, gets on the verge of bankruptcy again, they're not going to be impacted by that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so they're protected because, like you said, they're not really, getting a check for going around or anything like that.
I mean, they've been around for 40 years, 40 plus years now. And so they've been through every different fluctuation with the income and everything and revenues of the state and the financial well-being of the state. They've been through all the different economic cycles and they're still here. So
yes,
they're not impacted by that. Now, you asked about how you qualify. And I'm going to say it again, and I always say this. This will probably be the easiest money you ever get from a state organization. Easiest. You only have to meet like 4 qualifications. So number 1, you mentioned having a great credit score.
Yes.
You only need a credit score of 640 points.
Okay.
And if you didn't know, that's average. 640 points. Your income. So for Orange County, there are income limitations. And what that means is that there's a ceiling on how much you're allowed to earn in your household as far as income. So you're allowed to earn up to $174,000.
Now, is that like per person or just household income? Like for instance, you're married, so they put both your incomes together.
If you're both on the loan, it's only for the people who are on the loan.
Oh, okay. So so if you're married and let's say one person is like the breadwinner, the only person that works, that person, they're only gonna look at that income. Right. They're not gonna look at the spouses, even though maybe she may work or he may work. But if it's just gonna be one person on this loan, they'll only look at that person.
Correct.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. So that's up to $174,000. For those of you who don't know, I think the median household income is like $65,000 in the state of California.
Yeah. So a lot of people should qualify for it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be a first-time home buyer.
Now, first-time home buyer.
First-time home buyer.
Now, a lot of people think because they owned a home ever that they wouldn't qualify or they're not considered first-time home buyer.
Right.
But what is the definition of a first-time home buyer?
For the sake of these programs, it's someone who has not owned title to a property that is their primary residence within the last 3 years.
So, we'll stop there for a second. So you're saying, let's say if someone sold their house 5 years ago and they've been renting for the last 5 years, those people would be considered first-time home buyers.
Yes, they would.
All right. So you hear that, everyone? Even if you own a home, as long as you haven't owned a home or been on title within the last 3 years, you can qualify as a first-time home buyer. So sure.
And just another side note, even if you had an investment property.
Oh, yes, you did mention that. You said primary residence.
So if you have an investment property and you've been renting that out for the last 3 years while you yourself have been renting, then guess what? You're still qualifying as a first-time home buyer.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So you have to complete a home buyer education course, which you can do online. It takes all of probably a couple hours. And then after that, we just have to figure out what purchase price you qualify for based on the program guideline of 45% of your gross monthly income. So all of your combined debts with what's going to be included in the housing payment.
Correct.
As well as, your car payment, credit cards, student loans, things that you would see on your credit report. You just have to be at 45%. You have a maximum purchase price of, and I'll say in Orange County, of $660,000.
Okay.
And that's basically it. That's basically it. So if you meet those guidelines, there's no gray area about it. It's black and white. If you make $174,000, you qualify. If you make $175,000, you don't. If your credit score is 639, you don't qualify. If it's 640, you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very black and white, very simple.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the credit score because we actually just had a speaker speak this morning about how they were able to take someone's credit score to go up maybe even a couple hundred points within 30 days.
Right.
You know what I mean? So just imagine, if you're at like a 500 or something like that, and you need to get up to the 650, there are programs out there or credit repair companies that actually can implement and put together a plan to actually help your credit score go up within 30 days or sometimes even sooner, just depending on your situation, of course. Right. And if you're off points by like 620 and you have to be at 640, chance of you getting your score up to 640, you can do that a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because that could be anything from maybe making like a missed payment or maybe using like a credit card, very recently, anything like, things like that can change your credit score just a little bit. But, what he told you, like, what'd you say, a couple hour education for a first time home buyer education.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there's certain income limitations, but the average income is $65,000.
Yeah.
So most people would probably qualify for this program, just depending on it, right?
And if you make more than $174,000 a year, you're probably not even looking for a program.
Probably not, exactly. You're probably putting easily 10, 15% down or 20% down just to get rid of the PMI or MIP.
Yeah,
which stands for primary mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance premium, just depending on the loan you have. But.
Yeah, I think you're doing pretty well if you got over $175,000 in income.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah.
But they're just great programs to work with. And, the most important thing about these programs, the opportunities they bring, and I'm going to bring it back to something else we discussed at one point, which is, your buying power.
And, which is huge.
Yeah, and the consequences of waiting.
Correct.
Because if you're, like I'm dealing with a particular applicant right now who is going to qualify for, about $300,000 in Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
So if this particular individual had to wait, a year or more before they could do something, a year from now, if the interest rates are higher, which I expect they will be.
Correct.
First and foremost, that $300,000 that he qualifies for today, if the interest rate goes up, that might shrink down to $170,000 or $270,000.
Absolutely.
Right? So you combine that with the fact that right now there might be a handful of properties available in Orange County priced at $300,000, and a year from now you might find nothing out there priced at $270,000.
Which is absolutely possible.
Yeah,
especially
in the market.
Exactly.
Probable.
Exactly.
So that gentleman in particular, he's going to have a small window to where he's going to be able to get himself into the market.
Exactly.
And I've experienced this firsthand. There was a young woman that I helped a few years ago. She was a college graduate, fresh out of college, and she was able to buy a one-bedroom condo in the city of Orange, nice area, for about $225,000. Now, fast forward to year 2017, I'm now sitting down with another applicant, and unfortunately, they only qualify for about $230,000.
Oh, okay.
And we both know that she's probably not going to find anything in Orange County.
Right.
And I'm just, in my head, I'm just thinking, man, if I would have caught you 4 years ago, because I know this would have worked for you 4 years ago. But, for whatever reason, she wasn't ready, she didn't think about it, or she hadn't heard about these programs. And so, for all intents and purposes, she's forever priced out of the market in Orange County. So there are very real world consequences, to basically sitting on your hands and doing nothing.
Right.
And that's not to say, and this is not a situation where, I'm trying to tell everybody in the world you need to go buy a property right now. If you're ready to buy a property and, you've done your due diligence, you've been, fiscally responsible, and you're ready to take on that responsibility, then I would say don't wait another day. Because I know one thing, most people, especially the people that are going to be using these types of programs, they are going to be in that situation where they're purchasing in a price range that in a couple of years from now
won't be here.
Either won't be here, or you won't be able to get very much for it.
Exactly.
So you could go from being able to buy, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo with a 1-car garage, and a couple of years from now, that might be a one bedroom, 1 bathroom with a carport or a parking space.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's definitely realistic.
Right.
I mean, just seeing where the economy has gone and where it's going to go, you can totally see that in the next 2 to 3 years, for sure.
Right. And especially the market, the most important thing is where is the real estate market and where the financial market's headed.
Exactly.
Like I said, and by the way, for those of you who believe that we'll never, ever, ever have, higher interest rates again, keep in mind that when I purchased my first home, my rate was 7 3/4, and that was just in 2001. When I purchased the next home in 2008, my rate was 6 3/4. The market right now is at like 4.5%. So if you think that there's no way we could ever go back to 6%, you're fooling yourself, because we were there just not too long ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, like I said, there are real world consequences to waiting.
Right. And then I do also hear people saying too that, hey, well, the bubble's going to be popping soon. So when the bubble pops, that house over there that I can totally afford to buy now is going to be, 25% less. So I'm going to wait for that to happen. But I mean, what we saw happen back then would be more considered, what would you say, an anomaly?
It was an anomaly because it was created by an anomaly.
Correct.
Right? It wasn't the normal market and the normal economic pressures, of supply and demand.
Correct.
We've talked about it at length. You just had a lot going on in the industry that allowed people to enter into the market that shouldn't have been able to enter the market.
Right. Which
caused the market to heat up artificially.
Yes.
Property values were going up 15, 20%, within a year. You had a lot of people within the industry that were not regulated, and they were just allowed to play fast and loose with the rules and whatnot. And so what you had was people entering the marketplace, property values heating up.
Correct.
Homeowners saying, "Oh, gee, my condo or my house is worth an extra $200,000. Let me refinance." Then they take out cash.
Right.
And then they look around a year later and it's gone up another 20%. Let me do it again.
Right.
And so this is just continuing to artificially heat up the home prices and the marketplace. And eventually it all came crashing down because eventually it self-corrected. Eventually it was realized that, hey, this is all based on artificial information.
Correct.
So that's how we got to the crash in 2008 and everything that's happened since then. So since then, there have been many different regulations that have been put on people within the industry to make sure that we're not aiding and abetting that process. You had loan programs that were, much less restrictive, that were basically retired and put on the shelf. Now you actually have to be able to verify the information that you're coming with. You can't just say, hey, I make $1 million and I got $1 million stashed away in the Cayman Islands.
Right.
I just work as a janitor at McDonald's by day because I don't want anybody to know how much money I got. So
gotta keep it a secret, man.
Right. So those things are gone now, and now what you're just left with good old-fashioned supply and demand. So where we're at right now, you have more people that are looking to buy a home than you have people that are looking to sell a home.
Right.
Combined with the fact that the new construction starts were not as much as they should have been because a lot of the builders were left reeling from what happened in 2008. I mean, there was a lot of money lost by builders who were
absolutely
still in the midst of building new properties.
Exactly.
I watched one myself happened. Those two towers right off of MacArthur in Santa Ana, they stopped mid construction. This was like 2008.
Oh yes, I remember those.
They stopped mid construction, and I believe the city or the county told them they had to at least complete the outside, and they were building like it's going to be like $1 million penthouses, and they just stopped in the middle of it, and then eventually they did complete it, but they're now just apartments for rent. But they were like trying to sell it. It was going to be like $1 million.
Yeah, I know. I think mortgage is going to be like $6,000 or something like that.
Yeah, just crazy. So you had the you had a lot of builders that weren't building as fervently as they should have been. They were just kind of nervous about what happened.
Right.
And so now, like I said, they're all trying to play catch up. And like I said, you just have more people looking for homes now than there are homes available. But really, here's the thing to remember. Is that as you climb to new heights, even if you fall, more than likely you're not falling back to where you came from. You're just falling a little short of where, the highest heights, right? So if the average home right now, let's say is $600,000,
okay,
right, and 2 years from now that makes it up to $700,000. Well, more than likely what will happen is it's not going to go back down to 600,000. It'll probably maybe go back down to 670.
Well, correct. I mean, that's more of a realistic correction.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is too, which you have to realize is because whereas, in the last 3 or 4 years, we're basically in a low interest climate where interest rates weren't really, going past a certain threshold. And a good way to to monitor that is to look at the 10-year Treasury bond. Right. That's yielding. So we were at a point where interest rates weren't really, moving too much. So you could say potentially, okay, 2 years from now, the price will come back down and it may not affect me. But hey, let's say today you could buy that property, you could finance it for $600,000 at a rate of 4.5%. Well, if you wait till the market balloons up and then it crashes again 2 years from now, let's say it comes back down to 600,000. Hypothetically, well, what if when it comes back down to 600,000, the rate is now at 5.25%? Did you outsmart anybody? Did you outfox anybody? Did you save yourself any money?
No,
you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, because you're paying more for the loan.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So, like I said, I mean, you can't legitimately, make a case to me. As far as where it makes sense to wait if you're ready to buy something. Right. For your personal use, for you to live in for a home. Investment's a whole different animal. But
for sure. I mean, obviously that's more, more numbers, more, I guess you would say rational thinking, you know what I mean? Because obviously when you're looking at investment, you're looking more of an ROI return. Right. This is something that's going to be making you money. Right. You know what I mean? As opposed to a primary residence where you're looking more for somewhere you're going to live for a certain amount of time. Right. Not to mention just depending on your family situation as well. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, there's no case you can make to me, and I know we all kind of have it in our head. We're all our own, junior loan officers in our head. I get it. I have people that tell me that all the time. I had a person tell me that the other day.
I'm a senior loan officer, Wes. What you talking about, man? Junior?
Hey, I just decided it's going to be better for me to wait because I think I know what nobody else in your industry knows, but I know it somehow for sure.
Because I told my cousin's brothers, aunts, nieces, and uncle told me that. That's
right. I threw some grass in the air, and it went that way. And what I would say is, and I would tell everyone this, when you're dealing with your loan officer, should you decide to wait, instead of taking it upon yourself to make the assessment that it's better that you wait or more financially benefit that you wait, rather than just giving that information to your loan officer and, vanishing into a cloud of dust. Right. Ask a question instead. And the question should be this. What are the implications, both good and bad, what are the implications of me, say, putting off purchasing a home for the next year or two? Right. So you can get the full picture and not just get it from whatever article you found randomly or whatever blog you found randomly on Google, just get the information from, the actual source, someone who's in the industry, someone who's been in the industry, someone who's been through the different bubbles and whatnot,
right?
That understands what's going on with the market. Just see what they have to say about it. I know you're all probably scared that they're going to try to sell you a house. And let me tell you, if your loan officer or your real estate agent doesn't realize that they can't sell you a house, you might want to fire them. One thing I'm always aware of, I can't sell anybody a house. The reason being, there's too much involved in the process.
Absolutely.
The road is too long.
Absolutely.
There's too many bumps along the way. And if you're not absolutely convicted, in your heart that I'm gonna be a homeowner and now's my time. If you're not there, there's nothing I can do to get you there. It's not like I'm selling you encyclopedias at your doorstep. I can just quickly get a check and
I'm out.
Before you realize you don't want it.
I'm down the street already.
Yeah.
You can't catch me.
Right. So I'm just telling you, there's no, and hey, I love Glenn Ross. It's a great movie. But, now Pacino does a great job of getting that guy one night at a bar. But he did end up canceling the next day.
Right. Right. He did, yes.
He did.
Yes.
So there's no way. So just ask for the information. Because like I said, there's no way to, there's no way to really talk you into buying a home, right? Because even if I sell you on it that day and you're feeling great, by the time you have to actually go out with a realtor or start looking at homes, or I'm asking you to send me all your financial information.
Correct.
You probably will have cooled off.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
right.
You probably would be telling me at that point, like, I'm really not ready. So just get information. Information.
Definitely.
Information. It's helpful. I promise you.
But I like when you brought up the point about, like you say, getting the information and talking to someone. Because the thing is, a lot of these articles and blogs and websites and everything that you read, they're not evaluating your personal situation.
True.
You know what I mean? It's not like they're directing it like, okay, this is based on you.
True.
These are the facts that are affected to you. We analyze your situation, your needs, your wants, why this is a good decision for you to do this. Their opinion is just a random opinion by whoever wrote the article. You know what I mean? So they don't know your situation. They don't know your financial situation, your family situation, your work situation, or whatever, or why you want to purchase a house, what's your motivation, and things like that. So you really can't take a general article or a blog or some type of website or even television,
right?
That talks about it, because they're not analyzing your specific situation. That's why it's important for you to sit down with a person like Wesley, and he can actually explain to you, why you should purchase a house or why you shouldn't. Wes is pretty straightforward. He tells people. I actually followed one of our clients yesterday. And she told him, like, hey, you know what? I spoke to Wes. He gave me homework to do. Once I do the homework, once I complete what I need to do, and then I can get qualified and be able to purchase a home with the down payment assistance program that Wesley went over.
Right.
So he sits down with people, and some of these people aren't ready. He actually puts together a plan. He's not like, hey, okay, call me when you're ready to buy. I'm out. It's like, no. He sits down, goes to the situation, and gives you a blueprint to follow, gives you homework to follow. Okay, you need to do this. Okay, right now you're not ready to do this. Okay, perfect. So do these things here, and then give me a call. That's the kind of person he is. He's not like, okay, next. Right. Get out of my seat. You don't qualify. Next. Who's next in line? Like, he's not that kind of person. And that's the reason why I work with him, is because he's very straightforward. He's very honest. He cares about his clients as much as I do, and like I said, he gives people blueprints. He doesn't just alienate a person just because they don't qualify. Right. He sees the value in every person that he gets the opportunity to speak to.
And I would say the other thing is, too, as far as like reading those, reading different, articles and resources, the other thing you have to consider, too, is that, if you're in Southern California, you are dealing with a very specific market that is its own animal.
Absolutely.
So a lot of those times, those articles, they're giving you information based on the United States across the board.
Exactly.
And I can tell you there's probably very few markets in the country that are, like Southern California.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So if they're taking data from, somewhere in Montana, or somewhere in South Carolina or something like that as far as the home buying and what the market's doing and all that.
Right.
You have to understand you're in a very different market.
Absolutely.
I have friends that have moved out to that have relocated to Texas and whatnot. And, we have conversations about where your property values are and where have they gone since you purchased the house. And in a lot of cases, I mean, they basically stood still.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, in my particular situation, because I know that's a lot of people, they're concerned about being in a bubble. Well, what if I buy the house and then the value drops and now I'm in the house where the value has dropped significantly?
And I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people do use that as a way to hesitate because they do feel that.
And let me tell you, I mean, when I bought my home in 2008, we were in the middle of the meltdown or the Great Recession, and the market had not yet bottomed out yet. Now, I'll tell you, honestly, I thought we were close to the bottom of 2008. Turns out we weren't. How do I know this? Because after I bought my property, I turned around and almost a year later, I was $30,000 upside down on it. Right? I lost $30,000 in equity. But I never worried about it for a few reasons. Number one, I had a mortgage payment that was comfortable for me.
Okay.
Right? So I wasn't worried about it. I got to live somewhere, and I'm fine making this payment. That's number one. Number two, it's my home. It's not an investment. I need a place to live. I can stay here as long as I need to until the market comes back.
I love that. You brought that up. This is my home. It's not an investment. I can live here as long as I need to, meaning that you can live there and the economy can get back on its feet, and all of a sudden you're no longer underwater.
Right. And so here we are today, just 10 years later, and now I have about $200,000 in equity.
That's great, and that's 10 years.
Right.
So you didn't have to stay in your place for 15 years or 20 years for this to happen. It only took 10 years.
Well, it took 10 years to get to 200,000 because I was positive.
Right.
I was in the black. I would say probably within 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So the point is that I knew I'm in Orange County. Okay. I don't live on the beach, but I have many beaches within 20 minutes of driving.
There you go, exactly.
So I knew that, that my property value would return a lot faster than someone who's in, say, El Paso, right? And it does. So, like I said, and that's the great thing about actually dealing with realtors, that are in the industry, that are in your particular area or neighborhood, because they're going to have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in your particular, city, area, neighborhood, whatever, in Orange County. And that's important. Same thing with your lender. So, and even within the city, the dynamics can change as far as property value.
Absolutely.
And if you have a realtor, that is aware of that works that particular city, very informed, know a lot of people within the city, that's important too, because, a lot of times, like I get these, if you're a homeowner, you get these postcards in the mail from different realtors all the time.
Oh, yes.
And so I live in the city of Orange, and I'm getting a postcard from a guy, and it says, just sold, San Juan Capistrano. I'm like, okay, if I ever own a home in San Juan Capistrano, I'll give you a call.
Right.
But if I decide to sell my home, I'm definitely going to work with somebody who works in the city of Orange.
Right.
That's all they do. I'm going to work with an expert, in that particular area. Because, even it could be very different from San Juan Capistrano down to.
Absolutely. I mean, if anyone knows San Juan Capistrano, there's a big difference between San Juan Capistrano and Orange for sure.
Yeah, it's a different animal. So
exactly.
That's why you deal with your local professionals. So you can get the specific information that's going to be, valuable to you.
Exactly.
In your situation. Like I said, a lot of those articles are accurate, but they're not specific, and that can be the problem.
Absolutely. Because, a lot of these articles that you read, a lot of them are East Coast.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of them are East Coast. So it's very hard, for someone that's obviously over there and write an article to generalize a whole country.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very hard to do that.
Right.
You know, like I said, a lot of these articles are written by people on the East Coast because they talk about things like basements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they talk about things like that white stuff that comes down sometimes during the year.
Snow?
Yeah, snow. I think it's called snow, right? Yeah, so they talk about stuff like that, and we don't get snow here. You know what I mean? So they talk about things like that. They talk about how the market's getting slow during the winter times like that. And it's like,
right.
We don't really experience that here.
Right.
You know, because we don't get that kind of stuff that comes out of the sky. You know, we get, sometimes we get little water that comes out of the sky. Maybe a handful of times a year we get that, and all of a sudden that's the day when people just can't drive. But not just me. I'm just saying that.
Some of us in the state of California get the snow.
Yeah.
In some parts.
And
again,
exactly.
That's why it's very specific.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because someone, if you're in Big Bear, it's kind of funny. I was out in Big Bear. I was surprised. There were like 7 different real estate brokers. And I'm like, wow, Big Bear's such a small city. Why are there so many brokers there?
Right.
It's a very unique market.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's no way I would trust a real estate agent that primarily works in the city of Orange to help me somewhere in Big Bear. It's its own animal.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I would say probably more Big Bear's probably deals with a lot of vacation homes and stuff like that too. So that would probably be more like a seasonal thing too for most agents out there in that area.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because normally, like I said, those homes are usually for like second homes, vacation homes.
Yeah.
So a lot of their transactions they're probably doing are probably during a specific part of the year. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and that's why it can be important too, because if you want to go out to Big Bear because you actually want to live there,
right?
Well, maybe you don't want to live where all the tourists and you're going to have all these random people in your neighborhood every year. So the real estate agent there can tell you, hey, here's where you want to live if you don't want to be dealing with
this
tourists.
This is the suburb where
Airbnb, and this is where you want to be.
Right.
So, so that's the important thing about it. Like I said, a lot of those articles, they're taking averages across the across the United States and things like that. And California has its own kind of economy. It's just its own.
Absolutely.
I think I read somewhere. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, but don't quote me on it. That like California's got like the 7th largest economy in the world or something like that.
Yeah, I've read that article too, and it's true.
Yeah. So I mean that's a little different than dealing with property in Iowa or an economy in Iowa. Nothing against Iowa. But just saying, it's totally different. So, again, just get information. It's more information you have, the better off you are. I've never heard anybody say, I would have made a better decision had I had less information.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Now, on a side note, have you seen this Facebook ad that's going around? I don't know how real it is or not. But they're talking about breaking up California into 3 different states.
No, well, my guess is
it's supposed to be on the ballot. It's supposed to be on the ballot in November. So we'll see what happens. We're talking about North California,
South and Central.
South and Central California. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, my guess is it's probably fake news. I don't know. We'll see. But, hey, I saw that Demolition Man, and there was an earthquake, and somehow Los Angeles and San Diego got combined together.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of interesting. But
San Angeles.
Yeah. I don't really see that happening, but I've heard that before, though, years ago.
Right.
But, I also heard at one point that there's going to be this great earthquake, so great that California was going to break off from the continental United States.
I remember that, too.
So, one never knows. But here's something I am seeing, though. There's this thing going on right now where people who are listing their homes, the agents, they're kind of doing this one-day exploding offer / auction situation.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that too.
Where they're like, basically, we're taking offers for 24 hours, and we're going with the best and the highest. You have 24 hours to get offering.
Right.
Right? And are you seeing that?
I'm seeing that, yes.
Okay. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, in this type of market, giving someone 2 days has seen, or more than 1 day, has seen to be more advantageous. Because, when you're doing this auction kind of style thing, a lot of people may be turned away from it. You know what I mean? Because they're just thinking, like, where do I start? You know what I mean? You're giving us 1 day to come look at this property. You're giving us 1 day to make the decision to put an offer on this property.
Right.
So for my take, you're probably looking for more an experienced buyer. You know what I mean? That's okay to take that risk. But in terms of like a first-time home buyer, they'll probably be scared to death. It's like, wait a second. Wait a second here. We got to look at this house Saturday, and we got to make a decision Saturday at that time to write an offer.
Right.
And they're just looking for the highest offer. Where do I start? What price should I actually offer? What's high? What's low? You know, like in that situation, you're really looking for an experienced buyer. Number one. Number two, you're as the seller. I mean, you're just looking. How much money can I get? How little time do I have to inconvenience myself for people to come look at this house?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, I would never suggest that to any of my clients like that. Just because the market is hot right now for sellers. It's a hot seller's market.
Right. You
don't have to entice people to come and look at the house for one day and get an offer in 24 hours. Right. It's different. I mean, it's sellers right now, pretty much over 90% of the houses that come to the market are getting hit and getting sold over this price and setting new records on a regular basis.
Right.
So why would you need to set up an auction style? That doesn't make sense, because right now, as a seller, you have the greatest opportunity right now to get more money for your house, period. So why do I need to set up an auction style? I don't need to set up an auction style like that. Like, it'd be different if this was like a very competitive market. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my gosh, like, geez, like, I'm not getting offers on my house. Like, what do I need to do? What strategy do I need to utilize? Because I know, like, I got to compete with that house down the street. I got to compete with them. How can we come up with a strategy? Okay, we'll set up this one day thing, right? Right. We'll list your price really low, because that's what they usually do in these auctions. These one day things, they normally list the house, let's say about between 10% and above. Sometimes even higher, just depending on the auction style. So they normally list the house price less than what every house in the neighborhood goes for, right? So if you're a buyer and you're already looking at that, well, and if your agent's educated and so forth, knowledgeable and stuff like that, you're already thinking like, okay, damn, like they're gonna sell, they want to sell over this price. They'll never accept this offer, right? And they're not going to. They're just using it as a carrot. Like, yeah, we'll list it. It's like, oh yeah, wow, he's listing $40,000 less than all the house in the neighborhood. But he's not selling the house to you for $40,000 under, or she's not selling the house for you $40,000 under. She's only doing that just to kind of beat up the price.
Right, and that's the biggest issue I have with it, because I was speaking to another realtor partner of mine, and this one's out in Corona area. They're listing it. He looked at the comps. This home is worth $400,000, and they're listing it for $300,000 on this auction style thing, right? And to me, we have buyers that we're trying to help find a house out there. Right. And I said, if I were you. Because he said it's starting to happen a lot out there. I said, if I were you, I would be calling on those sellers and offering them my services and telling them what a disservice that agent is.
So did you know your agent listed your house $100,000 less than the most recent sale?
Right.
Yeah, major told me that blah 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 blah. It's like, well, did you know that you don't actually need to do this in this kind of market?
Yeah, because it's just it's just kind of a waste of your time. Because here's what's going to happen. I mean. You're going to have people that see it at $300,000, like, I'm going to put in $350,000. I'm going to get the winning bid. Right. And honestly speaking, what's going to end up happening is they're not going to have anybody even bid what it's worth, and they're just going to have to start the process all over again. Right, because some people will be turned off by it. Yeah, absolutely. So, or think, damn, there must be something really wrong with this house. That's going to cost me $100,000 to bring up the value. I'm out. I'm ready to put an offer on this. And it just appeals to me. It just appears to me that that agent has just decided, you know what? I want to get this done quick and dirty. There you go. I don't want to be spending weekends doing open houses, and going to broker previews. Exactly. Nope. One day only. One day only. I'm going to have the house open, and we're going to figure it out. Yep. See, like I said, if you're starting $100,000 below the actual value, you may not even get back to the real value. Right. Yeah, exactly. Unless you're dealing with some sophisticated buyer that's willing to go up. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I mean, that's a very small pool you're dealing with, as opposed to just coming on as you should, doing the proper, marketing and everything like that. Because, like I said, this market right now, you don't need to do that kind of stuff. And that's the point, because even if you get someone that offers the $400,000 that the home is worth, well, you could have got more of that if you would have put it on the market for $400,000.
Correct.
Just let all these people come view it.
Exactly.
And they all put in offers.
Right.
And they know the starting point is $400,000.
Correct.
And if their agents are good, their agents know where the market is right now. Like, hey, guys, this is a hot home.
Absolutely.
And in this market, I promise you, if you bid the actual asking price, you are not getting that home.
Absolutely. And hopefully those agents are also calling the listing agent as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's huge. Like, for instance, our client that we got accepted a couple weeks ago in Corona. You know, I called the listing agent. You called the listing agent. We were going up against multiple offers. They ended up accepting our offer because you made the listing agent feel so comfortable about accepting our client, as well as, you know, I did a transaction with one of their top agents in their office, and he talked about how great I was and how the transaction was so smooth. They decided to go with our offer. And like you said, our offer wasn't even the highest. And by the way, that client, Wes, how is that client one of those using the down payment assistance program?
Yes, she is.
Exactly, huh?
Yes, she is.
That myth program that does not exist. She worked with a client that's actually on the program as we speak right now.
And by the way, the great thing about it is, you know, she has a significant amount saved up in the bank, but she still gets to use that program. And that's the great thing about the program, too, because whereas some of the, like, local city, county programs, like, they have these rules, like you're not allowed to have more than $5,000 in your bank account.
Absolutely, absolutely.
These programs don't have those rules.
Right.
And so for this particular buyer, it's as simple as this. Your money is going to serve you better if it's continued to work for you and grow for you. And if you put that money in the house, it's not going to be doing that. But if you have it in a CD, if you have it in a mutual fund account, if you have it in one of the accounts like we talked about last week, all those things are situations. Because I think the last week she said it grows at like 9%, right?
Right, the index account.
Correct. Right, the index account, 9%. Right. Well, guess what? If you're only paying 4.6%, or no, the money she is borrowing is 2.5% simple interest.
Oh, yes.
And she can go put it in something that's making double, triple, quadruple that.
Exactly.
Doesn't that make more sense to have that money keep growing like that for you?
Well, for sure.
Just burying it in the house?
Exactly. I mean, because she gets to keep the money. Because, I mean, for most people, it'll probably be more advantageous for you to be able to save more of your money than to put more money into the house. Right. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you know, you'll have a higher mortgage payment or whatever, but that's when you go over the numbers to make sure financially they would make sense for them to be able to do that, obviously. But for me, I'd rather have more money saved than to have to dump all my money in. And it's like, all right, like, okay, at least we're saving us $300 a month. It's like, no, like, I'd rather have that additional money that I would need to make on a monthly basis, but still have a large amount saved because life happens, man. Like, you know, like, you could be here today, get in the car, and obviously you don't want that, but things can happen. All of a sudden you have this large expense, and it's like, damn it, man, why did I put 7% or 5% in there when I could have easily, you know, done the down payments program and had that money saved up? Yeah,
and I mean, by the way, guess what most, you know, a lot of the loan officers are doing right now that interest rates are up. And when interest rates go up, you know, it doesn't make sense financially for a lot of people to refinance their home. Because if you have a current loan that's financed at 3.5%, well, I can't pick up the phone and say, hey, I got a great deal. Let's get you a 4.5% rate. But what they are doing is this. Hey, John, do you need money for anything? Oh, do you need to take cash out? Do you need to pay off credit card? And guess what? What comes along with that? Fees, typically, for the refinance. Yeah. And then you're going to be paying interest on that money. So the client we're talking about, when they call her and say, hey, want to take out that cash that you put in to buy the house? I don't need to. It's still in the bank. Actually, it's more than what it was worth when I got the house. Yeah. Call my neighbor, though. I think they put like $50,000 of their own money in there. Give them a call. Yeah. So that's the other thing, too. And it just, you know, it just always reminds me of that, you know, that parable in the Bible about the 3 talents. You know, where the master gives all 3 of his servants different amounts of talents or money, different amounts of money, and 2 of them went out there and invested it and grew it, and one of them literally buried it in the ground. Buried it in the ground and handed it back and said, here, I protected your investment. He's like, you didn't. I mean, I already had that money. You didn't grow it. You didn't invest it. You didn't do anything.
Yes.
You just brought me back what I originally had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, like I said, that you're literally burying the money in the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and hey, if you have the money to do it, or these programs don't work out for you, it is what it is. You have to do what you have to do.
Right,
but,
exactly.
You know, just say it. I mean, like I said, if you can use your money on something else that's going to continue to build wealth for you and continue to grow for you, as opposed to just putting it into a home, you know, I think that's more prudent. And by the way, you're also going to feel better about dealing with any financial challenges that may arise.
Absolutely.
Because here's the other problem too. For some people, for a lot of people, right, back in like 2008 or around that time frame,
mm-hmm.
their home became a tomb that they were sealed in, right? Now here's why I say that.
Uh-huh.
Because the mortgage payment went up, they couldn't afford the mortgage payment, and the only way to get out of it was to refinance into another program,
mm-hmm.
right? But now you can't refinance because the value's not there in the home, right? So let me tell you how that could happen in today's world. So let's say you do lose your job, right? And you have very little saved up because
mm-hmm.
you put it all in the home. Well, now your first inclination is going to be, man, I need to refinance the home and get that money back so I'm good until I get another job. But guess what they're going to tell you? You don't have any income. We can't finance you for anything.
Right.
So now you literally sealed yourself in that tomb. You know, so that's another reason, like I said, cash is king. Cash is king. You know what I'm saying? So
well, in your terms, cash is king in terms of you keeping your cash,
right.
You know, your cash. Not necessarily saying cash is king where you're using that cash to put down more money in a house.
No. Cash is king as far as, you know, you're going to be better served
mm-hmm.
if any type of financial challenge arises.
Exactly.
You're going to be better served if you have more money in the bank
mm-hmm.
to get yourself through that tough time. You know, it's like when I have clients who are saying, hey, Wes, I want to get, you know, a rate that's 0.25% lower than what I qualify for.
Mm-hmm.
Should I do that? Well, let's look at it. It's going to cost you $6,000 to do that,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to save about $80 per month. Okay? Now, if you lose your job for any reason, are you going to be feeling good about the fact that you're paying $80 less per month? Or is your first thought going to be, I'm glad I got an extra $6,000 to deal with?
Yeah.
Right? And that's
mm-hmm.
why we always tell people your first goal once you get in a home, first thing you should do is try to get together 6 months of cash reserves. Right? And actually, some loan programs require that you have that available to you at the time you close. So I said that money is going to serve you better,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to feel better about it
mm-hmm.
if you have access to it in case you do, because the emergency you're worried about, because it's usually like, oh man, that payment, I'm a little worried. I mean, what if I lose a job or something like that? Okay, so let's say we get it $80 lower,
mm-hmm.
and you lose your job tomorrow. Do you feel any better about making that payment?
Absolutely not.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you keep where it is, and you're able to keep an extra $10,000 in the bank. Do you feel better about that if you lose your job tomorrow? Well, yeah, I mean, $10,000, I mean, I could pay my mortgage for 4 months with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now you're cooking with gas.
Yeah. That's good, man. Yeah, all the information that you brought into was great. You know, and I love the fact that you hit on the, like you said, the cash, actually being able to save more, because that's more an incentive of you to use these programs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because, I mean, obviously it's great that you're able to buy the house,
right.
which is great, but also the ability for you to save more money,
mm-hmm.
because that's the thing. You know, if you can save more money and buy a house,
right.
that's a win-win situation.
Right. I mean, because, you know, you just have to overall, when you're buying a house, it's not, you know, just buying a house. It's
mm-hmm.
how does this all fit into the overall picture of your financial goals and your current financial circumstances?
Absolutely.
You know, because it's just not buying the house. One thing can impact the others. You know, so what you're able to put away for retirement,
mm-hmm.
How many vacations you're able to take a year,
right?
You know, what you can put away for your kids, you know, college education. All those things are impacted by, you know, your strategy with not
mm-hmm.
only buying a house, but how you invest, where you invest, all of that. So it's all about plugging the home buying part of the process
mm-hmm.
into the overall picture of your financial goals.
Yeah.
You know, and making it work for you.
Okay.
Yep. And that's why you can't, everybody's situation is different. There is no cookie cutter. That's why it's like, I'll have people all the time like, hey, what are rates at? Well, that depends. I don't know your financial situation, number one. Number two,
your rate's at 10. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it really depends on the situation. Because that goes back to the articles thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're basing your decision based on the articles. And you can't do that because the situation is different.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't be afraid. Talk to people. Get the information. And hey, if somebody makes you feel like here's the good news.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking to a real estate agent, if you're talking to a loan officer, lender, and they're making you feel uncomfortable or you feel like you're pressured or whatever, guess what you get to do? You get to fire them and find somebody that, is going to provide you with the information you need without making you feel like you have to do something today. And if you're working with the right people, that's how it should feel. So, don't get caught up on, well, I don't want to talk to anyone because I'm going to be pressured. We don't all operate like that.
True.
Because like I said, the wise ones understand I'm not going to convince you to buy a house today. And even if I did, I'll never get you across the finish line because you have to, deal with this process for months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let that get in the way of you getting, information. Get the information. Like I said, deal with people that are going to work with you on your level and provide you with the information you want without making you feel like you have to jump in a car and go look at 10 different homes right now and buy something that's $100,000 more than you feel comfortable buying. Work with people that are on your level that are going to give you the information, make you feel good and comfortable about the situation. Best way to do that, my advice to you, is to work with, people that look at people in your sphere of influence, specifically people who have purchased a home, and ask them, who did you work with? What was your experience? Did you enjoy this person? Let me talk to this person. And you get to interview these people.
Right, exactly.
And you get to see what how you guys communicate and how they operate, what they do and what their process is, and whether or not that's something you like and something, you want to work with. And so, interview people and talk to people that who've actually been through the process and see who they work with and what their experience was. Because, and I use this specifically as far as talking to people who have actually used that person in a transaction. Because if I had a dime for every time somebody referred someone to a realtor they know, right? And this person has never bought a house, but hey, use Johnny. I hear Johnny's good.
Right.
Well, you didn't use Johnny in a real estate transaction, so how do you know about Johnny?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So if they've specifically had an experience with that person and they enjoyed it, and they kind of understand what you're going to have to go through, and that this person can help you get through that, then that's great. And then the other thing is, too, I know we all know if you show up to any family event, there's going to be a real estate agent there. Someone in the family who's a real estate agent, loan officer, whatever. And if you want to work with family, awesome. Interview them, too. See if that's going to work out for you. But what I will say is this, though, and this is what I tell them, this is what I ask my clients. And specifically when I'm dealing with a client that is using a family member that is a real estate agent. You get to use whoever you want. And if you're comfortable with that person, by all means do it. But what I will say is this. Ask yourself one question. If this person was not a relative or a friend of the family and I needed to buy a home, would I still be using this individual to do it? Or is the only reason I'm doing this because we share a bloodline or we grew up on the same street? If that's the only reason, and by the way, even if you have to say the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm related to this person, that still doesn't mean that you have to fire them. But all I'm saying is go get to know them on a deeper level as far as their job duties and their professionalism, things like that. So if you're at a party and everybody's like, hey, Aunt Jenny, she's a real estate agent. You should use her to buy your house. Okay, great. Interview Aunt Jenny.
Exactly.
See what she's doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Understand her process. Ask her for some references. And if everything she presents you with makes you feel good about dealing with Aunt Jenny, then deal with Aunt Jenny.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But what you don't want, if Aunt Jenny really has been licensed for years, But most of the time, she is a greeter at Walmart, and she's done a couple real estate transactions in the last 10 years. That may not be what you want to do.
Well, absolutely, especially since the contract updates at least twice a year. So for sure, you don't want to do that. Definitely.
Right. So so just like I said, just interview people, get to know people, and then get your information and act accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Sounds good, man. Well, you provided with a lot of great information today, Wes. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for providing such great information.
No problem.
Yes, and thank you guys all for tuning in. Obviously, I'm going to save this recording. I know we went a little long today than normal, but hey, when he's dropping gold, man, I don't stop it. So make sure to check out this video. As I stated, we're going to save it. If you guys have any questions or any comments or anything like that, you can comment here, or you can contact us with our contact information in the post. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. We appreciate your likes, shares, and comments. Episode 16 is done. Have a great weekend, and we'll sign off with Wes.
Be assertive. Be proactive. Have a great weekend.
All right. Have a great weekend.